Around the turn of the millennium, Hungary's economy was in shambles. The ex-socialist country was sold out during privatization. In politics, Fidesz turned from liberal to right-wing. Right-wing MDF and MIEP declined, and Jobbik appeared on the scene. Founded by university students, teachers, and intellectuals, Jobbik offered a right-wing alternative of national spirit to the discredited left-wing youth groups.
Mai világunkban, amikor az ifjúság nagy része úgy tűnik teljesen közömbös a politika kérdései iránt, talán az ő útját is folytatják azok a fiúk és lányok, akik úgy tartják, hogy az ő világszemléletük a Jobbik.
Jobbik was organized from village to village, town to town, and yes, they occasionally used a radical tone, unusual in Hungarian politics at that time.
Fiatalkori lázadás. Mi lázadtunk az ellen a társadalmi igazságtalansággal szemben, amit láttunk az országban, lázadtunk a folyamatosan a szemünk előtt történő lopásokkal és országkiárusítással szemben, és közben lázadtunk az ellen is, hogy nem lehetünk büszkén magyarok a saját hazánkban.
They were openly talking about taboos, which would be more accepted now, but was very unusual in the post-communist era, where beliefs like, it's better not to talk about sensitive issues like the Romas, were still prevalent. Their frank communication helped the movement to raise its public awareness extremely quickly. But it also led to many of the general misconceptions still held today. Jobbik became a political party in October 2003, aiming to overcome a historical stasis that Hungary has not been truly democratized. Politics is still monopolar, and legislation is intertwined with shady deals, while the existing parties fail to consistently represent Hungarian interest. Wasn't it a nice mission? And there's not much change. They fight for the same goals now as they did back then. Fidesz and Jobbik were strategic partners to form a strong right. Still, interestingly, Jobbik was always more left-wing in its politics than Fidesz, and even the actual left-wing parties. With Jobbik's popularity on the rise, Fidesz got scared and began to treat the new party as a rival. And it actually pushed Jobbik to a more far-right position. It was not easy for Jobbik leaders to handle the rapid growth and large number of new members coming from diverse groups of society after the original, very intellectual line of the party. As President Vona frankly stated recently, he was not strong enough to defend his original national conservative values during such a growth period. True, there were many supporters and leaders with extremist views. To tell the truth, all other parties have members with similar feelings. They just don't talk about it. And yes, when Jobbik people talked about things like gypsy crime, the media, with strong social liberal roots and with the socialist in power, immediately picked it up and labeled it as racism. As I see now, though, the media itself played a much more important role in creating the current prevailing distorted sentiments regarding Jobbik than party members' actual moves and speeches would justify. Contemporary documents clearly show that the problems these young people were talking about were simply very real, and are still real. To improve the coexistence of Gypsies and Hungarians is a complex issue, and nobody ever elected has solved them yet. By the way, is it so surprising that members of a young movement make rash statements? Why would anyone expect 20-somethings to communicate like wise statesmen? It may come as a surprise, but all the insiders I talked with confirmed that those who personally know the founders of the party are fully convinced of their honest intentions and democratic attitude. Even though there has never been any evidence of political-level racism characterizing Jobbik as a whole, the media still keeps trying to blend the opinion of more extreme, mostly ex-Jobbik members with the official position of the party's actual leadership. And they do it sometimes with their best intentions to defend the country, and sometimes on purpose driven by upper editorial instructions. But based on facts, it seems to be clear now, Jobbik was not an extremist party itself. It was just young and outspoken. They made controversial statements. But what party doesn't? Without the filter of the mainstream media, you can realize how consistent the party's leaders have been about their values since 2002. In addition to an increasing dissatisfaction with the overall political landscape, there were two cases when Jobbik felt completely betrayed. The first thorn in their side was when Fidesz gave up the fight for recounting the votes in 2002 after a highly controversial election. The second one took place in 2006, when the socialist-controlled police brutally beat up the crowd on the National Commemoration Day of the 1956 revolution, when Viktor Orbán fled the scene in his armored car, leaving his supporters behind, and both Fidesz and MIEP kept silent. The events blew Jobbik's fuse, and they came to the conclusion that Gyurcsány-led socialists betrayed the country, and Fidesz was no longer interested in Hungary's democratization or the needs of the people. It was driven by nothing else but power. Interestingly, they think and feel the same today, after 6 unsuccessful socialist and Fidesz terms. Tense times like this are often followed by tense reactions. Many people seem to have forgotten that this was the very moment that prompted the organization of the Hungarian Guard, the Maya Garda, based on the existing examples of Italian, Swiss, and American National Guards, all of which have a very positive reputation. The purpose of this organization was to preserve Hungarian national values and help create order on a local level, where people were afraid that authorities were unable to act efficiently after recent turbulent political events. Soon afterwards, the Guard was involved in flood control and relief efforts, protecting local citizens from lynchings in Olasliska, and helped others, especially the elderly, in their daily chores. It was the largest grassroots NGO in Hungary at the time. But marching in their uniform was just adding to existing fears about Jobbik. In rural areas, locals who actually knew the Guard still remember them as the people who helped to cut firewood and defend national values, not as those extremists depicted in the media. So, why did Jobbik become a symbol of racism? Again, because the outspoken attitude and intolerant comments of Jobbik caused an outrage in the Budapest-controlled, traditionally social liberal media.
Ha láttunk egy magyar gárda felvonulást, úgy vágtuk meg, hogy félelmet keltsen. Pedig tudtuk, hogy tevékenységük nem veszélyes. Egy idő után mindenki szélsőséges pártnak tartotta a Jobbikot. Ez volt a cél, hogy saját magunkra hajtsuk a vizet. De nem sikerült, mert a Fidesz malmára hajtottuk.
After 2010, Jobbik stepped out of the Fidesz shadow, and Gábor Vona set a new direction from 2012 to 2013. It was a brave and tough decision. He took a huge political risk, but he was successful in managing the transition, although many people still doubt if the shift was sincere. However, those who closely know the president and monitor facts see that Vona is very consistent. While there are many scandals about other parties, Jobbik has issues, mostly fabricated by its competitors. And all experts I interviewed agreed that Jobbik had certainly no part of the corrupted Hungarian political system. Hungary needs at least one party like that.
Mi is lehetnénk korruptak. Tehát mi is lehetnénk, és mi is azt mondhatnánk, hogy fölvenném a én kis kávonalamat, vagy a kis közvetlenül a miniszterelnök úrhoz esetleg, és azt mondanám, hogy hát Viktor, most Jók ezek a viták most. Neked is, nekem is, hát faragjuk itt egymást rendszeresen a parlamentbe. Egyezzünk meg. És nem mindenki csak hogy magában válaszoljon a kérdésre, amit fölteszek, hogy önök szerint történtek ilyen beszélgetések az elmúlt 27 évben? Mert szerintem nagyon sok. Egy dologban biztos vagyok, bár ezt sem tudom bizonyítani, mert ugye senki nem volt ott, én nem voltam ilyen beszélgetésen. És én minden reggel nyugodtan kelek, mert engem semmi ilyen fajta beszélgetés a munkámban nem akadályoz. És a Jobbikot sem. És ez egy óriási dolog, hogy a mi pártunk, vannak hibái. Biztos vannak hibái. De a mi pártunk az ettől a korrupt rendszertől, ami itt fölépült az elmúlt 27 évben, mentes.
Vona admits too that Fidesz does have some achievements to show for, like strengthening the national economy, protecting Hungary's borders, and supporting families. However, economic growth is considered as not being sustainable. Orbán supports profit-hungry multinationals and an economy strategy based on low wages, while he seemingly attacks the West. Latest polls, conferences, and renowned political analysts state that Fidesz is now viewed as the more extremist, while Jobbik is mainstream. People are not blind. Already, a majority want the government to change, according to most researches. This is a completely new arrangement on Hungary's political map, not yet fully understood inside and outside of the country. Fidesz controls most of the media, the prosecutor's office, the state audit office, the National Tax and Customs Authority, and part of the courts. It went so far that it used the state audit office to set a huge €2.1 million fine for Jobbik, its biggest competitor. This step resulted in mobilizing the masses and created cooperation among some of the opposition parties where Jobbik appeared as the leading power, able to change government. While you personally might not feel the disadvantage of corruption and an authoritarian leadership in your daily life, others are very afraid that Hungary has already become a dictatorship. This could eventually lead to Hungary even leaving the EU and getting closer to Eastern authoritarian states. Never in history were there so many rich politicians and oligarchs born than during the second Orbán government. Fidesz supporters are aware of this and even feel ashamed for it. The most prominent, Lorink Mazaros, has produced a growth rate faster than Mark Zuckerberg ever did. Many, including Vona, now consider Orbán as the head of this corrupt system. Also, many people and Western observers believe that Orbán's friendship with Putin and his supposed financial ties with Rosatom may even mean national security risk for Hungary. The government's 165 billion forints residency bond program and their business contracts with Russian IT companies who were able to access sensitive data of local companies and who have ties with dubious Arab businessmen, some of which were wanted by the CIA, are just additions to these charges. While facts clearly show that Fidesz's time and power resulted in a slow growth, a decade of lost opportunities and corruption, when Hungary lagged behind other CEE countries in almost all respects, Jobbik, in the meantime, has been steadily going on a path of positive renewal. Jobbik promotes the values of democracy, the importance of performance, and raising the poorest by building a knowledge-based society. It has both won the support of new, left-leaning voters and disappointed Fidesz intellectuals, but its image is still shadowed by the past. There are signs of a more balanced tone in social liberal media now, but it is not enough for most people to understand the positive program of the party. That's why Vona once said, 2/3 of the people support Jobbik. They just don't know it yet. Jobbik's European Citizens Initiative, the wage union, was a surprise for many, and it would soon be considered the most progressive vision in Hungary's and Europe's recent history. I thought at first it was some kind of political bluff, but the more I read about it and talked about it with unbiased economists and listened to Oxford professors Peter Rona or Zoltan Pogača, the more I realize that this could really be the best way for Europe and Hungary, because it means much more than a pay raise. It's actually a new model for Europe, a real European Union where all European citizens can feel equal. If the wages in the former German Democratic Republic could catch up with the West German parallel and a business restructuring, why couldn't other newly joined countries and Hungary achieve the same? Jobbik was the only one who took action. This civic initiative is supported by 8 countries in the region and legitimized officially by the EU. But of course, in a media fire from both sides, the reality again simply does not get through to the people. Did you know that public state TV channels like M1 or Duna TV, even TV2 or News Portal, Origo, Tabloid Repost, or leading radio station Radio 1 are all owned and manipulated by Fidesz? All county daily papers, portals, and most local radios are controlled by them too. But it is not enough for them. A Fidesz spokesperson was blushing in a recent press event when asked about the official test of a voice changer software. It became obvious then. Fidesz won't be afraid of using fake news, extreme manipulations, and anything to defend its power. As Gabor Vona is not allowed to speak on public TV, Jobbik has no choice but to rely on personal interactions, YouTube or Facebook, where the party and its president already has more fans combined than the ruling party does. Jobbik is now supported by celebrities, college professors, doctors, acclaimed economists, Olympic and world champions, ones that can no longer agree with current developments. Others still prefer the left or liberals, but they realize that their vote will be lost if they vote for any smaller parties, since no other party has the chance to compete with Fidesz except for Jobbik, which has over 1 million supporters. So, it could be a wise option for all Hungarians to vote for the second biggest challenger, Jobbik, locally, in order to change the government. They can still vote for any of the preferred parties on the national list due to the uniqueness of the Hungarian voting system that gives most of the weight of the votes to the local representatives for the final combined outcome of the elections. People in rural areas have always been sure that Jobbik stands for them. Small business owners know that Jobbik was the first party to suggest a so-called strategic alliance with small businesses, instead of supporting multinationals like Fidesz and socialists always did. Employees, public administration officials, teachers, social workers, healthcare professionals, all now seem to put their faith in Jobbik to solve their problems. When Gabor Vona sat down to our table once at an event, I asked him why Jobbik was not making any spectacular populist promises. He answered that Jobbik does not make big promises, rather takes action. I may even believe him with his 40 years of age and 15 years of political experience, full of energy, as compared to an aging and pot-bellied, though still charismatic Orbán. After 6 unsuccessful socialist and Fidesz government terms, Hungary might need a generation change in politics. Instead of the usual left-right confrontation, this country needs now to solve problems and live a European life with European wages and European services. You and your family might want this change now, and not sometime in the future, as it always was promised in the past. You might want your children to return from abroad, or not migrate there forever. According to a recent survey, people consider the 25 Jobbik mayors as the most successful in solving local problems in Hungary. Over 1 million people already support Jobbik, and is already the most popular among the youth. So many expect Jobbik to preserve what is good, remove what is bad, and repair whatever can still be repaired. It seems to be a safe, balanced choice now, with professional and expert governance, like what Jobbik wants. My dear Hungarian friends, Don't you think Jobbik deserves a chance?